All right, welcome to another episode of Yet to Be Named podcast with Tim Urista and Glamis Cole.
Good to be here.
How are you? Yeah, how are you today, Tim? It's been a while.
Doing good.
One thing I wanted to talk to you about because I was reading an article recently. Singapore recently executed a man for drug trafficking, and the Iranian government actually protested, like wanted to get a stay of his execution, which I thought was interesting. But the government went ahead to do it. And then reading into it, they said that in the past couple of months, there was I think this Iranian slash Singaporean man was the fourth execution in I think 2 or 3 months. So there's been a quite pace of executions for these drug traffickers. So I thought it would be interesting to talk about that because what do you what are your thoughts on capital punishment? Firstly, before I share about my thoughts.
That's a very broad question. Are you talking about just the death penalty in general, or all capital?
Yeah, the death penalty. Like no matter the way you choose to do it, like be it by hanging or the electric chair. I don't even know if people still do that. And then I know there's lethal injections as well in the States. What do you think that it is an acceptable form of punishment? You think it's effective or not?
I don't know. I'm kind of conflicted. I see both sides. There are some people who are pure evil, and they will do anything to hurt other people. And so at that point, I understand why you would want to help prevent more pain from that person applying to other people. And I mean, yeah, you can lock them up, but they can hurt people in jail. And so maybe at some point, some people are so lost and so broken that maybe the death penalty makes sense. But I also understand from the humanity side, like, who am I to judge someone and determine that they should die? It's like, that's kind of God's decision of whether people live or die, not me or him. So I'm not sure.
I don't see it that way though. Like I mean, it's not like I guess it works a little bit differently in the States where you still have the jury system. But in Singapore, we don't have the jury; it's just the judge, right? And hopefully, we do a good job in appointing the judges that will be, impartial, and the sentence that they give out would be proportional to the crime under the guidance of our constitution and our legislative system, of course. And if the people who voted for that government, who wrote the laws, think that okay, for a particular crime, the punishment is the death penalty, then I think we can accept that because I mean it's not like I'm playing God to decide who shall live or die, because we have already written that law that the punishment is the death penalty. You chose to commit that crime knowing the risk. So I didn't decide your fate. Like you decided your fate that okay, this is a risk that I'm willing to take. Just like how someone decides to do a risky job that they could possibly die from, So
Yeah, but it's still man who created the rules. So whether they broke the rules or not, it's still a man-made thing.
That's true. That's true. But personally, I'm of the opinion that I agree that certain crimes can be warrants a death penalty. I just believe in that. First of all, I don't see jail as some place where you just keep people who are menace to society. Like jail should be okay for certain in like I think the primary goal of jail should be um rehabilitation. Like you're trying to keep someone away for a certain period of time, rehabilitate them, and try to hopefully reintroduce them as a useful member of society. That should be the primary goal. I know some people probably cannot be rehabilitated and also do not cross the threshold of getting the capital punishment. But like if someone is like committed a heinous crime, a serial killer, for example, I don't think the argument that like, oh, just lock him up and then he will not commit any more murder is a good enough punishment for people like that. I'm like, that's just wasting society's resources. Like the resources for jail should be kept for people who can be rehabilitated, going back to society. These people have already been, I don't know. I'm very uh strong on this. Like some crime, murder, these sort of things, capital punishment. I don't even bat an eye. Like I'm like they ask for it, unless it's like of course the law has already put in like okay self-defense or like the insanity thing which has to go through a lot of legal tests for them to be able to do that plea, but in general I think there are certain crimes that warrants it.
But are the people being put to death in Singapore serial murderers?
Well, in my memory, I don't know if I ever even know of a serial murderer case in Singapore. We are one of the lowest murder rates in the world, I think. Uh, I'm pretty sure. If not the lowest, it's one of the lowest. But mm the debate comes, I guess, most people like in general, because capital punishment is in general more accepted in the Eastern societies than the Western world, and a lot of the concerns from people in the Western world is like, okay, why is our drug trafficking uh punishment the death penalty? Because they did not commit murder. But I feel that arguments can be made that like the number of lives that they destroy, that these drugs, I mean, talking about hard drugs like heroin, is only like things like that, like heroin and a big amount of cocaine or whatever that, I'm not sure about cocaine, don't quote me on that. But heroin, I know for sure that um, that warrants a death penalty, that we will give a death penalty for. Because I mean, these drugs destroys a lot of lives, more than maybe what a single murderer can do.
Is the bar for drug trafficking pretty low? Like if I have a couple joints in my pocket, am I now a trafficker?
Well, depending on the type of drugs, I used to be a cop, and then we had to study that. I don't remember the numbers for all the different kind of drugs, because um, some drugs that are, I think, less harmful in a sense, then you need to traffic a lot more to have the death penalty. But I think heroin is one of the hardest one, the highest, lowest threshold one. If you have just 15 grams of pure heroin, which most people wouldn't carry, because not that I'm an expert, but the heroin is cut with other chemicals and stuff. So, um, but 15 grams of pure heroin. So they will test it out. Like for example, if you carry a large package of supposedly heroin, they will bring it to the lab, do whatever test to get the purity, get it down to how much pure heroin you have. Then if it's above 15 grams, it is like the death penalty.
So 15 grams is about 3/4. That's the equivalent weight. but I have no idea how much meth that is.
Yeah. 15 grams is freaking tiny. Like imagine if it's powder form, it's probably like the size of my fingernail, of my little finger.
What's like three quarters weighs the same, so you think it'd be at least that size. Because
Yeah,
metal's
it
pretty dense.
depends. I mean, this kind depends on the density. But anyway, if we are talking about mass is the same no matter what. 15 grams is very little.
Dang.
Yeah. Yeah. But I I'm all for it actually. Like I would say these people they made a choice, right? We made the law, we said, okay, we don't want drugs in our country. Like, why am I so concerned about the rights of these people who decided that their mode of living is going to be trafficking drugs that will destroy lives? I'm not gonna trade their rights for the welfare of my country, and that's the big argument that our prime minister had, our first prime minister had, whenever he was interviewed about the death penalty, the capital punishment. He's like, I don't care about these people. If they want to bring in the drugs that will destroy um, hundreds of families or thousands of families uh, in my own country, I will gladly choose my own citizens rather than these people.
But
It's just
what isn't it? They're kind of like what people do in their home is up to them. And if they choose to smoke some weed in their home and it doesn't affect anyone else, then why is the government involved?
mm, I guess drugs are one of those crimes that are like have second, third order effects, right? Like some
Yeah,
to
depending
fuel
which
to fuel.
one.
Yeah, I mean, okay, like if we are gonna talk about recreational drugs, those kind of things, that's a separate topic that we can talk about another time. Like, is there such a thing as a gateway drug? Do people like, is it a logical argument that people say, okay, if you start with a recreational drug like marijuana and then you progress on to like harder and harder drugs, that's debatable. Personally, I think maybe not. But now we are talking about like, okay, for example, someone's taking heroin and they are dependent on it. It's normal. It's logical to assume that, especially back then when Singapore is developing, when we are not as rich, it could be said that it could be argued that a druggee would not be as productive in their job and as well in society. Then to fuel their drug habit, let's say if they are out of a job, they might commit like petty crimes like robbery or just pickpocketing just to fuel that. The broken families, all these like in Eastern culture. I mean, in most cultures, families are the basic building block of a society, right? So, and you have like broken families, how to deal with someone who is a drug addict. I think there are all these things to be said for drugs. So it's not like an individual thing where you take your drugs at home, you are not affecting anybody, then it is your own problem. And most people, I mean, when you take drugs, is to alter your mental state, right? So the how you act when you're on drugs is another issue that we wouldn't know, like how you will react and how you behave. You know,
Yeah.
so
I was looking up
sorry. Mhm.
like what's the dose of meth, and just in that
Mhm.
quick search, it was like 1 to 3 grams. So 5 doses would be now you're a dealer.
Definitely.
That would affect so many people in San Francisco.
Yeah, yeah.
Like
Well, I
they
think
would all
there
be.
is a yeah, but I think there is a line being drawn between a dealer and a trafficker. I have I don't know what's obviously the legal test that they do, or like how they argue it in the courts. But trafficker is basically someone who would bring it into Singapore, I would say. I think.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
for other people, Singapore is just this little island. So all of it has to be brought in.
Yeah, sure. We
It's like
even have cases. Go ahead.
it's like if you made meth in New Jersey and you went to New York. That's what trafficking into Singapore would be like.
Yeah, exactly. We even have cases where they have caught people across the causeway, that tiny little straits of Malaysia between Malaysia and Singapore. They put it on a drone and try to fly over the water. And
Whoa.
the straits is only 1 kilometer wide, so it's less than a mile, less than a mile wide. So yeah. So anyway, I was just looking at briefly in the US. I think they said 20 over states, about half of the states in US also still have the capital punishment. Um, the one thing I wanted to talk about, one of the reason why I want to talk about it is, people are like, oh, the studies doesn't show that it it uh it is effective in deterring the crime that they are supposed to deter. But I don't quite agree with this argument. I don't quite believe this study, because you are telling me that when they know that the risk of doing these actions is death, they will not think twice. Like, I'm sure most people will think twice. Uh, and for someone who is less resolved, you would be able to deter them because they treasure their life more than making whatever $100,000 or whatever. I'm not saying that nobody is desperate enough to continue, even if they know that the risk is there. I'm sure there are people who are desperate enough to do that, but there will be people who are not desperate enough to do that. They're like, all right, I'll find other ways to make money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
From the murder perspective, I think there are people who just want to hurt other people and they don't care if they die. I don't
Yeah.
know how many people that would deter.
Yeah.
Because like in mass shootings, the person ends up either committing suicide by cop or suicide by the weapon. But from a drug
Mhm.
perspective, yeah, I think if your risk was 3 years in jail or death, the death one would prevent a lot of drug.
Yeah. Yeah. And even if it doesn't prevent, like, you'll be like, okay, you will probably think about bringing an amount that does not hit the threshold for the death penalty. You'll be like, all right, I'm willing to risk life imprisonment versus death. You'll be like, yeah, I'll carry just a little bit less, which itself is already effective. That means the law has already done its job, because um, less drugs is coming into the country.
Yeah, I mean, whether it's life in prison or death, like if life in prison is a little amount and death is a lot amount, well, then I'm just gonna try and do a lot in one and call it done.
Yeah, I don't think it's I think the difference is probably small. I mean, like, for example, for heroin, it's already 15 grams. I doubt the difference is a lot. There's not much room to play with.
It's like, do I want to bring a little in multiple times or a whole lot once? And would rather
Yeah.
do the
Well,
once.
don't put ideas in these people's head. The in it is a law that, like, for example, when you fly into US, the US government, the FAA, or is it the TSA, one of these agencies make it a law to make a particular announcement in the flight for any flights going into the US. Is basically like to prevent terrorism. It's like, okay, we have to make a announcement that you cannot be congregating in the aisle or in the galleys or in the lavatory areas because of, I guess, the UX experience with aviation terrorism. But similarly, in Singapore, it is a law that any flights flying into Singapore would have to make the announcement warning people coming in that, like, hey, the penalty for drug trafficking is death. Like, when you're coming in, you better think twice. Go to the bathroom and flush it away if you did bring it over on the flight.
Yeah, I was gonna say, as you're coming to land, that's a little late of an announcement.
Yeah, but I mean, you still, before you go through immigration, I guess you still have a chance to go to the bathroom and like flush it off, or just go to the lavatory in the aircraft and like flush it away. Or if you swallow the balloons, it's time for you to go to the bathroom.
Yeah, that's if you can get it out. Otherwise, you'll be
Mm-hmm.
staying in the bathroom before immigration.
Yeah, yeah. So, do you know if Florida has this capital punishment? And if
Not off the top of
and
my
if it actually, I mean, knowing Florida, I wouldn't be surprised that it is allowed. You know,
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised. But if it comes on the ballot, if it comes on the ballot for drugs, I think many people it will cause quite a big debate in the US.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially with um like making the murderer TV show where it's like, are those people actually guilty? We don't know.
Yeah,
Hopefully
yeah.
hopefully we caught the right ones, but
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
sometimes it seems like people want to just get someone guilty and don't care if it's the right person.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, this is another rabbit hole that we can get into. Like, I mean, there are certain uh instances where someone has been wrongly accused and convicted of a crime, but especially for a crime of this severity. But I would like to see if anyone did the statistics on like how often we get it wrong. Uh,
That would be a hard one to prove. 'Cause
yeah,
according to the people in jail, everyone's innocent.
that is true. That is true. That is true. That would be a hard one to prove. I mean, I would like to see how many cases have been overturned for wrongful conviction. I don't know. I mean, the situation between the US and Singapore is very different because you have such a big country. You have over 300 million people versus like 5.5 million in Singapore in such a tiny country. I would hope that the chances of us getting it wrong in terms of capturing the right guy and prosecuting them, I would think that the chances is a lot lower.
Okay. From your cop experience, is there any punishment if you convict the wrong person?
Oh, that's a good question.
Because if
Uh,
not, there's an incentive to convict someone instead of make it drag on, right?
mm, that's a good question. Actually, I do not know. That's something that I would have to look into. Like, is there any punishment? Like, can they be sued for wrongful prosecution? I don't know. I have a feeling that most of the time, there's a certain level of immunity for the public prosecutors. Uh, I would imagine, but I do not know.
Yeah, because if I could get thrown in jail if I throw the wrong person in jail, well, then I'm not going to do that career.
Yeah. Although that would make sure that, like, if before you convict someone, you have to be very sure. It should be, I guess, a good motivator for being thorough in someone's job.
Hmm.
Hmm. Although, I mean, I don't know if it is like my feeling from watching movies, US movies or not. But the movies always make it seem like there's such an incentive for some prosecutor to nail somebody for a high profile case, and they'll just do whatever it takes and be blinded by whatever uh evidence that could show the contrary. I do not know if it happens the same in Singapore or not. We don't really have such sensationalized crimes in Singapore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I bet people still keep a track of their conviction rate, try and keep it as close to 100 as they can.
Mm. Yeah, I know that's a thing in the States, but I do not know if that's a thing here. Because that's where the plea deal comes in, right? Like in the States where, okay, if you plead guilty to this, I'll give you this deal for this sentence and whatever, then they can avoid going to court. Um, just so that they can keep their court wins un unblemished, I would say.
Hmm.
Like the movie, what was that movie with the guy from 300?
Law-abiding
Where
citizen.
Yeah, law-abiding citizen. Yeah, yeah. That's a thing about the legal system in the States. But I don't think that's widely practiced in Singapore. I'm sure in the eyes of the law, they do give an incentive for people to be cooperative uh, in the investigation, and also like not to waste the court's time if it was like, all right, I plead guilty, that's me. There's probably a certain incentive for that, but I'm not sure if the prosecutors in Singapore do the same thing to avoid court and preserve their record. I don't know. I mean, I doubt anyone is going to openly come out and admit that,
Yeah.
yeah, in the first place. It's an interesting thing, but you know, the law, all the laws that we can make is just you can't cover all bases, right? Like you just can only do your best, and then hopefully that these laws can be applied correctly as well in the first place. All right, I think that's enough about capital punishment.
Yeah. Move on to something a little happier. So I
Yeah,
have a
yeah.
question for you.
Okay.
Who let the dogs out and was it irresponsible?
Well, I don't know. It depends on what you're referring to, right? I
Yes.
The only thing reference I know is the song.
Did when you lived in Singapore, was that actually popular?
Yeah, it was. It was. And
Whoa.
but that's the only line of the song I know though.
Yeah. I liked it
Yeah.
just because they said dogs, and dogs are one of my favorite animals.
Yeah. Well, but I'm someone who I cannot catch the lyrics when I'm listening to it, so most of the time I don't know what they're singing about.
Yeah.
So what makes you talk about this?
I just thought it was a funny question, a little philosophical, but I wanted to hear your response.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I only know it from the reference to the song, but I don't even know what the song is about or um what were they talking about.
Yeah, it just is fun to sing. That's
It is.
but it's crazy that it made it all the way to Singapore when not really sure what it's about.
Yeah, I think Singapore's pop culture is heavily American. Well, at least when I was growing up, it's very American influence. Then it became more for a period of time like more J-pop, which is Japan. Then after that, K-pop, Korea. Now I would say, yeah.
So it is interesting how like J-pop and then K-pop grew, especially as it came towards America. And I think a lot of that is because of advertising. Another topic that I want to talk to you about, um, $400 billion, so roughly 2% of American GDP is spent on advertising a year. So that's just
Well,
billboards, commercials, on like your Facebook, Twitter, now X.
mhm,
$400 billion is spent, and once it's spent, it's then wasted. Um, it's no longer useful. And so I was wondering,
mhm,
what do you think of advertising? Do does it actually work, and why do companies do it so much? Because that's $400
mm.
billion is half of our military budget. And at least with the military budget, you get people trained, you get ships, planes, missiles, bullets. And with
Mhm.
advertising, you spend it and you're done.
Yeah. Mm. Well, to be honest, I actually thought that I mean 400 billion sounds like a big amount. But when you say that it's only 2% of the GDP, to be honest, I thought it would have been more because of like the general feel that I get in terms of all these advertisers and brands trying to get your eyeballs on everything, right? I mean, you just walk
Mhm.
down Times Square in New York City, the the billboards are just burning a hole in your corneas, and just the number of remember when we were on our trip and we had nothing to watch and we were just watching the regular TV on in the hotel room, and it was just commercials all the time. So to be honest, I thought it would be more. Although I will contend that it is not really wasted money in a sense, especially in when we are talking about whose point of view. Like, of course, if you said, okay, compared to military spending, yeah, you have like defense for the country, you train people with skills that they can use in the military, and hopefully outside of the military, you have the tangible benefits of your spending. But I
Mhm.
think the point of this advertising spending is to generate more money and uh, to increase your GDP, and basically because of spending, right? Because you will hope that for the 2% that you're spending, you're getting at least 10% spending expenditure from the people in return. So and then when your economy is strong, uh you have more power, you have especially like monetary power on the world stage. I'm not saying that it's right, but unfortunately, most of the time, economic might is very important, and it keeps your country relevant uh, against other country, you know.
Mhm.
So the goal of this advertising is just to boost the economy, make people spend money. I'm not saying that they get it right all the time. Like not all spending. I don't agree with all kind of spending in terms of like shopping, buying things, mass consumerism. There's a lot of arguments to be made that against them, but I see the point of advertising. I think it works. If it doesn't work, people will not be advertising, I would say. Like they must do a lot of analytics in terms of okay, I'm putting this amount of dollar into advertising. For every dollar that I'm putting in, how much money am I bringing in to my company? It must be a positive return. Otherwise, they wouldn't be doing it.
Do you think it's kind of like if you're not advertising, then you're not trying to grow, so then it's frowned upon by investors? So it doesn't matter if it actually works. You just have to show that you're trying to grow.
Hmm. That's a good point. I could see that. I could see that. But as an investor, uh, yeah, I think you have a very good point right there because as an investor, I can see how human greed will come into play. Like, all right, I'm sitting on the board, or I hold a certain stock to the company, and even if the company is making money without any sort of advertising, I'll be thinking, could we be making more money if you had advertised?
Yeah.
And then
Because
you probably would have requested it. So then, if that's the case, then begs the question, was it effective in the first place? So now you raise a very good point. Like maybe they would have been making money, would have made more money without spending on advertising.
when's the last time advertising worked on you?
Oh man, when has the last time worked on me? Uh Well, that's difficult. I mean, typically because I don't watch TV anymore, whatever I watch is like streaming platforms or
Mhm.
uh YouTube. I watch a lot of YouTube, just on various topics. So the ads that I get are from these platforms. I think the most ads that I get exposed to these days, to be honest, would be Instagram probably when I'm like in my time of mm, scrolling it. Uh, I would say probably at least once in the last couple of months. I have been interested to check out certain things on that are certain advertisements that I see on Instagram, and I probably made some purchases. Probably some meats like a beef steak from a butcher in UAE. Um, that's what I can think of.
Buying your beef off Instagram?
Yeah, I think because I don't know the being that I just moved to Dubai. I don't know what kind of butchers and retailers are popular here, and then that's why I'm actually not that much against data collection to a certain degree uh, by the internet service providers or whatever, like Google or whatever, because I know their goal is to try to sell me things, but a lot of times it actually benefits me because they know that I'm interested in these things and I do want to know what's out there, like I just moved to Dubai and I want to get quality meats and stuff. Obviously, I had to do my own due diligence. The commercials are going to be pushed tailored for me. Like, all right, this guy likes the meat. Okay, these are all the different butchers that are advertising on the Instagram platform. So it's still up to me to find out what's the best and what's the best price. But at least I have easy access to all these things, that's pushed to me.
Yeah. I like to, when I ever do get exposed to commercials, I like to think deeply about what they're trying to say about their products. And an
Mm-hmm.
issue I have is they are they use fancy words, they talk like a politician, and they don't actually do anything. Like they don't tell you about the product, they don't really define how it's quantitatively superior compared to another product. And
Mm-hmm.
I have an example that I wanted to show you. I'm
Mm.
gonna pull it up and let me know if this commercial makes you want to buy the product.
Okay, let's see.
All right. So the start of it is a real commercial. It's
Mm-hmm.
about a detergent that says they remove up to 100% of grease and food residue.
Mm-hmm.
Are you tired of those same old man made chemical cleaning detergents? Introducing Free Breeze, the 100% natural cleaning aid with zero man made chemicals. No more scrubbing your dirty soup bowls, and they're still up to 100% clean. No more scraping away pasta. Just watch as a mess is blown away and leaves your plates up to 100% clean. Right? So
Yeah.
what is the like soap commercial even telling you? Up to 100% clean? Well, yeah. Anything's up to 100% clean, even if you do nothing.
Yeah. 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 I
And that was
think
like their main tagline from the commercial.
mhm. I think that's why these advertisers, they're paid the big bucks to think of these lines that tricks people who do not think deeply, but if they do want to sue them, they can't be sued, like they lose in a lawsuit.
Yeah. There's also a toothpaste commercial that says your teeth will be up to 100% cleaner than the competitor. It's like, that doesn't
Yeah.
say anything.
Yeah. What's the baseline?
And it's not like I see a toothpaste commercial and I'm like, oh, it's cleaner than the competitors. I'm going to go buy it. It's like, it would have
Yeah.
been better for them to save the money on advertising and lower the product, like the price of the product, and then I would buy it more.
Yeah. Yeah. But because you are more price motivated, but some people may just be like, okay, I don't care about the price. I want to get a better product, but they don't actually think about whether the advertising is telling them that this is a better product. Yeah. Which I think actually my college education did help a lot in terms of this thinking deeper, more deeply about what you see uh
Why do you think that
when you
is?
see a commercial. Um I think just the skills from probably some of the classes that we took, especially the humanities, when you're evaluating sources, the credibility of certain source makes you want to think. They teach you that you should be thinking more deeply about certain things. Like for what you see, like don't take it on a face value. And probably, when we did behavioral sciences or psychology. I mean, a lot of this is psychology is involved, right? I'm
Mhm.
sure they play on they play these tricks on humans that they know we often fall for. Yeah,
Is there a
they're
way to
using.
learn how to not be tricked as much?
I'm sure they are. Like if you had taken classes or like read up about this kind of just the human condition, in general, we are pretty similar. That's why there are a lot of that's why people fall for scams in the first place, right? Like there's so many online scammers or phone scammers because at a lot of the fundamental, I mean, on the fundamental levels, we are very similar in many sense. So that's why these people can learn to exploit our weaknesses, be it for bad, like in a scam, or for good, if they want to call it that way, in advertising to sell something. Uh, if we learn the same things as them, and then we are aware of our own weaknesses, then we will probably be able to guard it, guard ourselves much better against like commercials that's obviously out to trick us.
I also saw a diaper commercial and it was like, it will stop up to 100% of the leaks. And I thought
Mhm.
about making another satire commercial of me just in my regular boxers and saying it stops up to 100% of the leaks as long as there aren't
Yeah,
any.
yeah, yeah. Just use the bathroom like you should.
Yeah. Or if you don't go, then your diaper stops everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think college is probably too late to start. I mean, it will be too late. Like in high school, you gotta get it all this goes along with what young people, teenagers should be learning in terms of whatever you see on the internet, just have a healthy dose of skepticism and to think more deeply about something. Like we, I was just talking to a captain the other day that I was flying with, and he said he was just trying to teach his daughter something because his daughter was sharing with him like, "Hey, Dad, did you know that scientists found this like crazy huge dinosaur. I mean, it was just this ridiculous discovery that apparently scientists have found out somewhere. And then he was just trying to teach her, like, okay, let's think about this logically. Like, okay, do you think this is possible? Where did you see this news? Did you cross-reference it to other sources, perhaps? Like when you look at mommy and I, when we get our news, where do we get it from? Like, what are the sources that we get it from? So it, he's teaching her these skills that she can have that every time she sees something, then she can evaluate for herself, okay, is it a fake news or not, you know? So if you start people at an early age, when, like, for example, they have your level of skepticism or just thinking deeply about the commercial, like, what is it actually saying? Is it saying something? Then advertisers would be forced to be um, to come up with better ways to sell their products, right? To sell their clients' products rather. Because I am sure before scientists or behavioral scientists or psychologists learned about our human condition, and I'm sure a lot of it is trial and error.
Hmm.
Previously, the commercials or advertisements you see in the newspaper or in the classifieds, they had to state exactly what is good about their product, right? They'd be like, okay, my product is boom, made of stainless steel, bam, 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 handmade or whatever things, or machine, from the like the most advanced machine, this kind of thing. And they probably would have to, once everyone is on to them and their tricks, then it might have to go back to these things, and then people will evaluate for themselves. All right, is this product as good as is this product really the best that is out there?
Yeah. I like things that have quantitative numbers so you can actually
Mhm.
compare them to other things. But it
Yeah,
just seems like advertisers just make up quantitative things, like
yeah,
up to
yeah,
100% better.
yeah.
Or
I think
sometimes like in the
for
fine print, it compares like its own product to like its basic product and said like, wow, we're
yeah,
so much faster. It's like you're
yeah,
comparing to yourself. That's like saying a large popcorn is so much bigger than a small popcorn, even though we sell
yeah,
both.
yeah. Exactly. Like up to two times as much product, you know? Yeah.
Yeah.
And I I think some things can be quantitative, some products, but a lot of things that are being sold these days cannot be quantified. They are just trying to sell you a feeling, you know, um, sell you a vibe. And that goes into, I know, one of your pet peeves of like um just getting people spending money for the sake of spending money, getting tricked into waste, because they think that this is what they need to have. Um, so these things, the advertisers can't give you quantifiable metrics about why their product is better because their product serves no purpose except to give you a feeling. And the feeling is what they are trying to express through their commercial.
That actually makes a lot of sense. Because one of my questions was, why do people care about celebrity endorsements?
Yeah, I
And
think so. I think that's what you're linking.
why do people care about brands? And
Mm-hmm.
like I always think of, a Gucci purse versus a purse from Ross.
Mm-hmm.
They're about the same. Like a large portion of their quality, the looks are the same, but one is way
Mm-hmm.
more. And if you're just going based off quantitative things, it doesn't make any sense. Like
Yeah.
if a project's or if something's $10, another one's $100, it better be 10 times better in order for me to pay that money. But if it
Yeah.
is just a feeling where you don't care about quality or quantity, you just care
Mm-hmm.
about looking good or feeling good or wearing the same watch that a celebrity is wearing. Like if you just care
Mm-hmm.
about the qualitative emotions,
Yeah.
then the commercials make sense. Like
Yeah. Yeah, that's
they're
what they're
just
trying
trying
to
to spark
sell.
emotions.
Yeah, that's what they're trying to sell because um, you know, the cost price could be the same as any other bag that is um cheaper than them. But then the however X number of times more expensive, 10x more, that is the value of the feeling they're trying to sell you. They're like, do you want to feel like a boss when you walk in the room? Like all these other girls do not have this bag that you have. Like you have that prestige, whatever, you know? So how much
Mhm.
are you willing to spend for that? Uh, is what they are selling you. And it is their goal to make that value as high as possible. And no one can measure it for you except you. But they do their best to trick you into thinking that it's worth more and more. Yeah, one
Selling a
very good,
feeling.
yeah, one very good example I can raise is like, I mean, you know, I personally I love watches. And it's not even a celebrity. I mean, okay, many brands do celebrity endorsements, but one brand in particular that I mean that is close to my heart is Omega, and they their moon watch is what they beat to death every year. How it is the first watch that has gone to the moon, and it is before they're like, all right, they sell it based on like how tough and how durable our watches are. That the astronauts and NASA have selected this for the astronauts to bring to space. That is advertisements in the 60s and 70s. But now, when like pretty much almost any watchmaker can have the expertise and the claim to fame to make equal to, if not better watches than them, they sell the feeling of like, okay, this watch is associated with the space program. Like you want a piece of history, a watch that the astronauts wore to the moon and feel like them, this is the watch for you, you know?
Yeah, that that's good enough for NASA, then it's good enough for you. That may
Yeah,
that maybe made sense back in the day, but
yeah.
doing government acquisitions where I was the one buying things, we don't buy the best product.
Yeah,
A lot of times it's the cheapest and the worst product.
yeah. They say like you are using things made by the lowest bidder.
Yeah. Military grade. Oh, dang it. That means it sucks.
Mm.
It was the cheapest, or it was
Yeah,
made by a
but
small business.
yeah. So back then, that's the angle that they were using. Like, good enough for NASA and the astronauts is good enough for you. But now they can't use that anymore because if you're gonna compare watches, everybody is on the same level, if not better. Like depending on what kind of watch you're looking for. But if you want to have the feeling of being part of the space program, like feel like the astronauts did, or just having what you would call a piece of history. I mean, watch collectors convince themselves that this is a piece of history, even though that particular watch that they own did not go to space. But be like, you know, I mean, for me, I would say myself, like it works for me because I love space as well. And I love watches. So those two combined is just like take my money, you know?
Why does
But
it work?
you know, I don't know. It's probably like human psychology. I told you, they get me, like I love space. These are the combination of one of the two of my favorite things. So the value is there for me. Now, however, X amount that they have decided to charge. I mean, obviously, they kind of also know that there's a certain limit, right? Like that this value that imposed that I put on it is not $1 million, but it's good enough for $4,000 or $5,000.
Dang.
Yeah, so definitely they got me there.
And you seem happy about it, even though you know it's a trick.
It's a trick, but so the advertisers, that's how they live with themselves, I guess. They're like, no, I'm serving a good, I make people happy. But yeah, I think if you know that it is a trick and you're still willing to do it, then you have already evaluated that, all right, this thing is like good for you, good enough for you, right?
I mean, I'm not going to fall
Ha-
for it, hopefully.
Have you bought anything? Have you bought anything that you think uh like this, that because you love something so much, and then they have tagged a certain um value to it, in terms of vibe or what it represents, and then you bought something because of that?
Yeah, so I was thinking about what commercials have worked on me recently, and
Yeah.
I saw a commercial about lotion. I didn't buy lotion. It just reminded me to put it on my face. So I guess that kind of affected
Mm-hmm.
me. I
Mm-hmm.
do watch movie trailers and decide whether to go to the movie or not based off of a trailer.
Mm-hmm. And a
Um,
lot of it is a trick because they put the best parts of the trailer.
mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Usually it sways me to wait till it comes out to stream.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but from an emotion standpoint, um, a few years ago, I did put money into GameStop, not because I liked GameStop or like remembered as a kid. I was too poor to go to GameStop, so I didn't have video games. I had to go to my friend's
Mm-hmm.
house. So it's not like it was a nostalgia thing, but I saw there was a chance that maybe the government would get involved and prevent short sellers from betting against American companies. And so I put my money into it with the small chance of hopefully there is a change because I view short sellers like in the stock market. Like, sure, you can argue about how they help prevent prices from just getting out of control, but it's also like betting against America. And,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I was fighting for America in Afghanistan, and there's people in America betting that American companies go bankrupt. And I
Mm-hmm.
think there's something morally wrong with that. So it
Mm-hmm.
was kind of that was a feeling that I bought into.
Mm.
I knew
Okay.
nothing would probably ever come out of it. I was just hoping it
Mm-hmm.
would.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. I'm just trying to think from what I know of you and the things that you have. anything that you buy um, subconsciously on some level, you bought it because of reasons other than its practicality or its usefulness to you? I'm just trying to think. I
I guess
don't
one
know.
thing, it's not about buying it. It's
Mm,
my Honda Element that I've had since, sophomore in college.
mm.
The
Oh,
insurance is over $1,000 a year on this car
mm.
that maybe is only worth a couple thousand. So the
Yeah,
insurance costs more than the vehicle at this point, but I keep it because it's fun. The few times that I use it,
yeah. The
go
nostalgia.
camping and yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So sometimes uh these this value you just can't place. It just doesn't make monetary sense. Like for example, like you said, it costs you more money to pay the insurance than what the car is worth right now. But it is worth more to you than what you're paying for insurance, you know? And for many people, like for example, now this car reminds you of all the good times that we went camping in that vehicle or whatever outdoor things that we have done and the places that this car has brought you. It reminds you of that. And I think like Lego is a prime example. All the kits that they have, they are very popular. Just first of all, Lego is a toy, so it reminds people of the times that they are a kid. Because I mean, the biggest spenders are always the adults who has the money, and then it's whatever feeling they associated with with the sets that they are building that they bought. The the Harry Potter kits, the Star Wars, very popular. Um, what else? A lot of these pop culture related sets that are very popular. So you know, people go for that. So
Makes sense.
back to your yeah. So back to your question. I think there is value to the advertising money being spent because it generates more activity, right? In economic terms, what do you call that? Like spending just generates spending, right? And then just grows the GDP that way.
Mhm. Yeah, for
Yeah.
every $1
So
spent, it trades hands like 5 times, so it's like $5.
yeah, so it definitely has a lot more impact on the GDP than the 2% that it costs. So I wouldn't say it disappears and goes nowhere.
But
Go ahead.
I would think if that number dropped to zero and then the prices of those products then dropped, I think we would spend way more than 400 billion on those cheaper products.
Mm, but would people do you think but would people how would people know about these products? Like some
Like
because
people are creatures of habit. I don't know if a commercial really convinces people to switch what they're already buying.
mm, but then I could see how like then you can't have uh it will be a struggle for new companies. Like let's say I want to I don't know create a new product. Create it will be a struggle for me to get people to know about me and buy my stuff. And then the economy will in turn suffer because of that, because it is not conducive for new businesses to survive.
Unless it's spread by word of mouth and not advertising.
That's true. Yeah. Mm, that'll be, I mean, they used to have to do that, but now with the um, competition the way it is, and companies might run out of money before they even get enough people talking about them.
Maybe.
Yeah. But I think about this a lot, like in the Singapore context, because I always find that life in Singapore is quite a big rat race, you know. Mm, like I said, you need to have an economy for your country to be relevant. Yeah, so anyway, back to your question about advertising and its value. I think there is a its value because I thought about it a lot with in the Singapore context that I think unfortunately if you are not economically relevant, you are also almost politically irrelevant. And I think it's a problem that Singapore has and the rat race kind of lifestyle that we have to live in Singapore. So I think this is something that we can talk about in another episode. We can dive deeper. And also uh just made me think about the consumerism culture in the season of the holidays, right? Christmas is upon us, the season of giving. Um, I think that would be quite a bit for us to talk about as well.
Yeah. I wonder if it's always been called a season of giving, or is that a just a commercialization of it?
Yeah, I wonder that too. Like, you know, there's so many commercial holidays. Basically, like I hate Valentine's Day. That's made up to sell flowers and cards by Hallmark, I'm sure, in the beginning, and chocolates and for restaurants to jack up their prices for. I mean, there was a period of time in Singapore where it was where Valentine's Day menu is just more expensive for the same kind of food.
Hmm.
I think in recent years they kind of stopped doing that because they know that people know that it's a scam. Uh, but yeah, I think that's maybe for another episode.
Yeah.
What do you,
Uh,
as usual? Hmm?
we could still talk about Christmas.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, um, it's it's coming. I can't believe. Okay, first of all, I can't believe we are already in December of 2024. It's crazy.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Can
Are you
you,
looking forward to it?
so in America, I guess depending on where you're at in the United States, like we have a Christmas
Mm-hmm.
tree, presents under the Christmas tree. We have a chance
Mm-hmm.
of a white Christmas in a lot of places.
Yeah.
What's Singapore like? You have no snow or trees.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we are heavily influenced by America, right? I mean, like American pop culture from movies and everything, it has so much influence. So, I think as a kid, many people do wish for. I mean, like our dream would be like, okay, Christmas got to be a white Christmas. If only we had a chance to go to a country that snows, that would be awesome, you know? I guess some households have trees and the presents like they do in America, but I believe it's probably American influence. Uh, when I was growing up, I mean, my family is not uh are not Christians or Catholics, so we didn't celebrate Christmas. But I know of many of my friends, the way that they celebrated Christmas was to attend mass or church service in church. So the gifts came later as we started to grow up, and then I guess more and more media um in the form of movies and TV shows came to Singapore, then started had this to have this gift exchange kind of culture. I think that even non-Christians will celebrate it like that, which is a win for this companies and advertisers because there's another reason for people to buy things and spend money. That even non-Christians and Catholics who don't celebrate Christmas have a reason to do so in a way that benefits them.
So are you saying some people in Singapore actually had a like a Christmas tree?
Yeah, but a fake one.
Oh, I was gonna say,
Yeah,
where'd you get
yeah,
a
yeah.
pine tree from?
Nah, I don't know if people actually buy real trees. Like I'm not sure if there's even a business, a viable business of shipping pine trees, like temperate tree into Singapore. But there are people who, especially these days when it is more established in our idea of Christmas, there are people who would buy the fake trees and decorate it in their homes just for that ambiance,
And
the Christmas spirit.
people people hang their stockings above the fireplace with care. You
Mm,
don't have fireplaces, so what do you do?
we don't. Actually, I don't know. I mean, my family never did that. Never celebrated Christmas. So trying to think if my friends had it. I don't think they had it. I think if they did have it, they would probably hang it on the wall somewhere. It's not like a fireplace kind of thing. Yeah. Mm. But in general, I mean, from my experience, it is not that big of a deal as in America. Like you wouldn't have like stocking stuffers. You wouldn't have a ton of different presents under the tree. Probably everybody get one. If they even have a tree. In general, it's for the religious people will be church service. Then for the rest of us, and even for them, a nice dinner with your close ones. Um, and just spending a good time together, you know. And if you wanted a gift exchange, be it um like Secret Santa or whatever. One thing I hated though was white elephant, the practice of white elephant. Like it's just another waste of money where like you get $20 to buy something that most likely people are not gonna be using or be useless. And then you receive something, a 20 useless $20 item as well. And it's just generating waste and wasting money.
That one seems like it's developed by like a store. Like,
Probably
yeah,
like a
come buy
dollar store.
our products that no one really wants, but it's in your price range.
Yeah, you come up with a game and then you're like, this is what people do, don't you know? You know?
Yeah, call it a
That's
game, even though it's not really a game. Most people lose.
yeah. The only ones gaining are the companies that sell these items.
Mhm.
Hmm. But circling back to the feeling again, but a lot of it, the Christmas have a good feeling and vibe tied to it. And a lot of it probably is the music that have been written for it, you know. It just makes you feel good.
Yeah.
So
So when I was a kid, Christmas was really big because it was like the only time of the year we actually got presents.
yeah.
Um, and we would like decorate our fence, our lawn, our house, and Christmas lights. We had like four Christmas trees, so like one in a bunch of rooms. Um,
Wow.
it was pretty big in our family, and I enjoyed it until I got a little older.
Mm,
Um, one year we were just doing one expensive present. That's what each of the six kids got. And I
mm-hmm.
got scuba diving classes, and it was written in a card saying, "We'll pay for scuba diving lessons." And then they gave me the card, and that's what I opened.
Mm.
And I was 16 and I got upset. Like all I got was a piece of paper. I've already been
Yeah.
scuba diving. I don't need to get certified. And then um, after that, I saw a bunch of people, including myself, like you'd get jealous of other people if they got better presents than you.
Mm,
And then this year, uh, I was buying presents for like my nephews, um, and nephews, nieces, my wife, and then we have like two different Secret Santas. So it was like 15 people that I'm buying presents for. And I'm like,
eh,
I hate shopping and I hate
mm,
wasting money. And it's like
mm,
Christmas just seems like it's buying presents and you don't really care about the spending time together or
yeah,
singing and going around communities and singing holiday songs. It seems like
I
we kind
know.
of lost the meaning of Christmas.
I know. And I think it's all the work of these big corporations. That was their goal in the first place. Like somehow they have managed to weave gift giving into part of the celebrations for Christmas. Because I'm sure right in the beginning, it was like what the Singaporeans used to do 20, 30 years ago, just attending church service, celebrating the life of Jesus, I say. Um, but somehow it has become like this. And yeah, I know. I totally get what you mean. I get so stressed around this kind of thing where you are expected to give a present when I'm terrible at gift giving. My family, we never exchange gifts. We like I don't even remember the last time we did something like that. So I never grew up having this. We never celebrated Christmas. And then one of these thing that I feel so embarrassed and it still haunts me to this day is in fact I've never brought this up, but now that we're on this topic, this is the first time anyone in the world have ever heard me say this. But man, I'm still haunted by this. And I'm very sorry. So I think it was in 2011 or 20 it must be 2011 or 2012. Uh when I was in the academy and the Frances invited me over to their place to celebrate Christmas with their family. And it just never occurred to me about the gift exchange, uh, kind of thing. Um, it wasn't a thing. It was my first time celebrating Christmas in America. And they were like, oh, since you're in America, let's spend Christmas together with my family. I was like, and of course, I was very happy. But to me, I was just happy to spend time with them. I was thinking about a nice Christmas dinner and the time that we're gonna have until like the day before or maybe on the 23rd, I realized that, oh man, we are probably doing a gift exchange. And I'm like totally ill prepared. And then I'm terrible at thinking what people need. And like, for example, if I'm out and then I see something that, okay, I know really specifically this thing is what somebody needs, I'll buy it. Otherwise, I don't go around thinking, what should I buy for this person and what will they enjoy? It's not that I do not know them well. I just like I don't know, would they need this or what? So I felt so bad. I just went around to the different places. Like for example, um like Marty, he likes the outdoors, so I went to REI and got him a gift card. And then I don't even know what other I just bought a bunch of gift cards because that's like what Chinese people do too, we don't give presents, we just give cash, and you can do with it what you will, like whatever you want, you get whatever you want, you know. But man, when the day after Christmas and we were sitting by the trees and by the tree and everyone is opening their present and they were so thoughtful. I still remember to this day they got me uh, a nice winter jacket for the snow, and then they got me a pair of gloves and like winter pants, and I was just giving out gift cards. I was like, felt so terrible. I still feel terrible now. Every time I think about it, I just cringe and I had never told them about this before as well. or anyone for that matter, but I'm just so terrible at it.
Yeah, that's a tough one because there are times where someone tried to get me a gift and it's like, oh, I wish I just had a gift card.
Yeah,
So they
I mean,
they they seem like they aren't thoughtful
mhm,
because you didn't put effort into picking something out.
mhm.
But it's kind of also more thoughtful that you let the other person pick it out instead of giving them something that they don't need.
Exactly. Like, I don't want to waste my money, and I want it to be something that you would use. At least I put in the thought on the where you will want to spend that money. That's how I console myself. But no, I was terrible. Like, I was in the sitting around a tree. I just didn't know where to put my face.
I think it was Red Lobster who filed for bankruptcy recently,
Mm-hmm.
and they had
Mm.
$43 million in unused gift cards. So it's like
Wow.
gift cards to a specific place aren't good because people lose them or don't spend them all. I have so many gift
Yeah.
cards that have like $1 left on it, and it's like, and it just
Yeah.
goes to waste.
Yeah. That's what I hated as well. Like, um, there was a mall. There's a mall in Singapore that it's called Takashima. It's a Japanese brand. They used to be really big. I mean, it's a departmental store, right? Something like Macy's sort of thing, and people could buy gift vouchers from them, like $200, give it to someone. The thing that gets me that I totally do not agree is there is an expiry to it. You need to spend it within like a year or something. I'm like, how can this be? They're basically cash, like cash don't expire. How can you
Hmm.
say that like I give and then you put the time pressure on people to I have to spend it like so I'm not sure if gift cards are the same now these days, but then you always have that tiny little bit, and then so let's say you wanted something for uh $18, and then this was a $20 gift card, and you're like, I don't want to waste that $2. So in the end, end up buying the $25 item that I didn't want that as much as the $18 item.
They got you on that one.
Right? Yeah. They make you spend $5 extra for so that you did not waste $2. Uh, It's the same as what we were talking about previously. They're just trying to get you with in all the whatever money you can get, you can spend.
Mhm. Yeah, at least cash doesn't expire, but I don't know the last time that I've used cash to buy something. Sits in
Yeah,
a
uh,
jar because I don't like carrying it around.
yeah. I don't like carrying cash as well, but I mean, those gift cards and gift vouchers, they're as good as cash. Like they should not be an expiry that you need to spend it on.
Mhm. So when or how old were you when you had your first Christmas present that was wrapped?
I don't know. I can't remember. Probably pretty old. Um, I've received birthday presents before, like when I was younger, but Christmas presents that was wrapped. I don't know. I don't have a strong impression of it. And even then, and since I have not had the practice of, I mean, had not had many experiences of receiving Christmas presents. So the most memorable one was the Christmas that I spent with the Francis when we were in college.
Dang. I don't know what's sadder, that you don't get Christmas presents or that I think it's sad that you don't get presents
Yeah.
because
I
it's about the
think
people, not the presents.
Yeah. So don't even feel sad for me because I don't feel sad at all. It has never been an expectation for me. Like in fact, I do like that I don't get it because it takes the pressure away from me in a sense from having to give it. Um, I give presents whenever I want if I wanted to, but I don't want to feel the pressure of having to give someone a present just because it's Christmas. And similarly, I extend the same courtesy to them that they don't feel that they should give me a present just because it's Christmas. Because to me, but I do enjoy Christmas a lot. I like the music when I listen to it, the feeling that I get, uh, and the times that I get to spend with people during this holiday season. Like most people would find use this as an excuse to get together and have a good meal, um, just enjoy each other's company. Those I like, and I enjoy it a lot.
Okay. So I have
Yeah.
a question that might be considered a conspiracy theory, but I've asked a few people and I've never gotten a good answer.
Mm.
Is Santa like a pagan god? And when Christians sing songs about Santa, dress up as Santa, put Santa on the altar, are they
Hmm.
worshiping a pagan god?
Hmm. Yeah.
Because here's some
I mean,
context. Uh,
okay.
when Christianity was beginning, they
Yeah.
took over a lot of pagan churches, kept
Hmm.
the same statues, and replaced the nameplate with, like, instead of the God of Love, it was St. Paul or St. Peter. They just literally changed the nameplate, kept all the pagan stuff. Christmas is around one of the old pagan holidays. So it's like they just rebranded it and don't call it paganism anymore.
Mm. Yeah. For an easier transition, right? Yeah. I've read about that before. Um, I think it is whatever it has been such a long time that it is whatever meaning that people want to put to it, right? Like label it with. And as long as it works for the people who celebrates it and who believe in it, I think um it doesn't matter. Because
Because
that doesn't matter the origin, I would say.
what does, like, when you people worship God, what do you imagine
Mm.
that's doing?
Mm. Well, personally for me, you know me, I'm not a religious guy. Uh but I would say that most of the time when people are worshiping God, mm, they are expressing their thanks, I would say, admiration for the comfort that the God brings to whoever their God is brings to them and for the guidance that they believe they are getting, um, the values that they use to live their life. So they are, kind of mm, putting God on a pedestal and just like expressing their thanks and love, I would say. That's when they worship it for their worship.
I went more
So,
specific things. So, like, I view worshiping as like you sing songs, you have
mhm,
statues of your God. In some religions, you put out food or offering and you pray to God.
mm,
And so, what do you
yeah,
do for
yeah,
Santa? You sing Santa Claus songs, you have statues,
mhm,
and we have a blown up Santa Claus in our yard every night. We put out milk and cookies for Santa Claus. We don't pray, but you do write letters to Santa Claus and ask him for to give you stuff.
that's true. That's true. Yeah. But Santa, I would say it is a little bit because it is more of a kid thing, right? Like adults know that it is this is something that I also wanted to talk to you about. Like what did you think about people telling kids about this the Santa? Like is there a point to it? Uh why do you want to come up with a myth for the story behind Christmas? Like what because Christmas by itself in already has a biblical story, right? Why do you need to create an additional backstory for kids? That's what I always never understood. I've never been exposed to that. I knew right from the beginning Santa is a made up thing, it's just a story. It's a fable or whatever you call it. Um so I would say in a sense they're not really getting kids to worship him kind of like a god, but rather a story to keep kids in line, like one of those old wives' tales that they tell to trick kids so that to do what the adults want them to do, to be a good kid.
Yeah.
I actually good.
I was thinking about this the other day because it was in line with the topic that we can talk about on a different episode. It was like, is it okay to lie to people as long as it prevents awkwardness or hurting their feelings? And
Mm,
this is one of those scenarios where you are lying to your kid to their face multiple times
yeah.
every single year about the existence of this thing. And
Mm-hmm.
everyone's like, "Oh yeah, just do it." It's mean if you tell them the truth. And it's like
Yeah.
that,
I
that
don't get that
seems
as well.
it seems
Yeah.
worse to lie to them.
Yeah. I mean in this particular instance, I really don't get this. Like the feeling of Christmas is already uh good enough, and then like to teach them the value of love and like giving or whatever else you want to teach them is good enough. You don't really need the fake figure to convince them to do so. Like you can teach them whatever you want. I guess they just find it an easy way to teach the kids like this until they're older. Like in a sense, bribing them, like hey,
But
for the
you
presents, you gotta be good.
I don't know why you couldn't just say, "Be good," or "I won't buy you presents." Like,
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So I don't know. It's just so long. I guess it's just been so long. A lot of these stories that people talk about, tell, just gets passed down and passed down. That it loses its mm, how do I say like the point of it in the first place. Like it gets so blurred. Its purpose. Yeah, it loses it. It has lost its original purpose. Like you don't know what's the original purpose. But I'm sure it has been um heavily played by the advertisers to sell presents and toys. Hyped, or rather hyped.
yeah. And it also gets me to buy a blow up inflatable thing of Santa Claus for my lawn, or
Yeah,
like the Santa Claus you
yeah,
put on a roof.
yeah.
I
I
guess.
think
Oh no, Glamis is gone.
so. Uh, I think it'll be interesting to, but then there are like Saint Nicholas in European culture, those kind of things. So it'll be interesting to look back to see at which point in time when it started to represent like okay, getting presents for the good kids and the bad kids, they get nothing, those kind of things. And people back then, like when did people start to put up Santa decorations for Christmas? That's another thing, you know? too interesting to know.
Yeah. Probably just when we started having more money than we knew what to do with.
Probably.
Like, okay, we got the food and the survival down. We got a home. What else can we spend our money on?
Yeah.
A pointless blow up 10-foot Santa Claus.
Like how can we grow our economy? How else can we
Mhm.
grow the economy?
If
It's
you have
interesting.
kids, are you
Hmm?
gonna tell them about Santa?
I was actually the question I was gonna ask you actually. I'm not gonna tell them. I mean, I'll tell them that there's this story, but I'll tell them that it is just a story.
Mm.
I really don't see the point of that lying to them. And then, like, how many times you've seen in movies where kids find out accidentally that the whole thing has been a lie and their world comes crashing down and shattered. What's the point?
Yeah. Like there are a lot of times where, I take the honest and truthful path, which is usually the harder path, and then people
Mm-hmm.
get mad at you and call you mean because you told them the truth.
Yeah, yeah.
I think I wouldn't say that there's Santa Claus, but I wouldn't tell
Mm-hmm.
them that there's not. But I would have
Mm-hmm.
to think about it because that is still mean.
Yeah,
Like you essentially are lying to the kid and then you want him to trust you and you're being a hypocrite. But it's okay because everyone tells you that you should and you're a jerk if you don't.
yeah. Um, like I would say if you because um, if you do tell them, then you gotta tell them like, your friends may not know that the truth. Don't go destroying their world.
But also you want them to tell their friends the truth, because they don't want their friends to believe in something that doesn't exist. And it's a good habit to make sure that if someone believes in
If,
lies, that you're the one telling them the truth, seeking the
yeah,
truth.
like
That's
if
kind of what
yeah,
the
if
whole
someone
point of
is
this
being
podcast is.
yeah, that's true. Like if someone is being lied to, then they should be told, right? Yeah. So first of all, I really don't understand why is there a need to keep them in to tell them this story. And people are like, oh, they are kids, let them live out their fantasy. Like, they have their uh keep their what do they think? The childlike wonder about the world and uh the fantasies that they will believe in. But I'm like, no, but they live in the real world. Like, isn't it your job to equip them with uh how to be how to deal with the real world and the realities of it?
Yeah.
So I guess it is something that you and your wife needs to think about.
I had a funny thought pop into my head. Like, what if someone bought a billboard and it said, like, your parents are lying to you, Santa isn't real? So I looked it up to see if there was one, but I don't see one on Google.
Yeah,
But
yeah. On
if
the
you're trying to spread the truth, just put it right before like the Jesus sign, right?
Exactly, right? Like, I mean, like people believe that they are trying to help you by telling you the truth, like, oh, Jesus loves, and then they actually put in the effort to put a billboard and pay for a billboard that you see when you drive by. Yeah. I mean, when someone's driving by on the way to school, those billboards just be like, there is no Santa. They're lying to you. So I think it's definitely a good thing to think about for
Mhm.
prospective parents. I'm sure it's one of those things that they parents discuss about these days.
Yeah. I guess it's a lot easier in Singapore when you don't have to explain where presents come from.
Yeah, you don't. I mean, you have no chimney where Santa could come in through, you know, it's just not a thing. I think right from the beginning we all knew that Santa was not real. It's just a story that the Westerners have in their culture.
Yeah.
Yeah. But even then, right from a young age, we kind of knew a lot. I mean, we have our own version of fantastical stories, like with dragons and those things, but we all knew that those are just stories. Never have our parents try to make you think that it is real.
Yeah. So I wonder if it does more good or harm. I have to think about that one.
Yeah. Right. So Tim, I think we have spoken at length with the topics from today. First of all, I don't know how we can start from capital punishment to like advertising, but we did it. But that's really also one of the reasons why I enjoy talking to you so much and that I wanted to do this with you. You think deeply about a lot of things, and that's why you analyze like whatever you see, the commercials. So I really enjoy our conversation, and then it has led on to more topics that we can talk about. So I'm really looking forward to more episodes in the future and sharing our ideas with the world. So
Yeah, me
thanks for all
too.
your insights.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, see you another time.
All right. Love you.
Love you. Bye.
Bye.